Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, though, of course, we are going to keep it to 5 minutes. It wouldn't be the Fast Five if it wasn't, but we're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, our favourite story, the sleeper story, which is one that's kind of trying to fly under the radar a little bit, and the most remarkable story. So let's get into it. What was the biggest story of the week?
Oh, look, I think we're both going to agree on this. Interest rates and inflation. The Reserve Bank lifted rates 25 basis points for the first time since 2010. In the US, the Fed lifted rates by 50 basis points. That's the most in 22 years. Bank of England said rising energy prices and the war in Ukraine had led to a material deterioration in the economic outlook. What's all that mean? Well, equity markets went on a roller coaster ride, jumping sharply, then tumbling. Quite incredible. By the end of the week, markets were down, home mortgage rates were up, affecting all of us. Big fear is that we end up putting the economy into a recession rather than what they call a soft landing. Huge consequences for the election, cost of living debate, all sorts of things. All about interest rates this week, Michael.
Absolutely. Hands down, that is the biggest story of the week. I completely agree with you on that one. Let's move on to most remarkable. I've got a nomination for this one. It's actually a combination of a few stories. It's all about the recovery in the travel sector. Qantas said it will be profitable again next financial year. Great news. People are flying again, it seems. Qantas is talking about direct flights from the east coast of Australia to London and to New York. They've ordered new aircraft to do it and a stack of new planes as well for the domestic fleet. And speaking of new planes, the aircraft maker Airbus says it's increasing production of its A320 aircraft. They've got more orders coming in, earnings higher than expected. And then we've got news from Airbnb this week. They've upgraded revenue forecasts. International bookings in the US are exceeding pre-COVID levels. The Northern Hemisphere is heading into summer. There's plenty of demand. Put it all together, Sean. Travel is coming back, which is remarkable because 2 years ago, it was wiped out.
Yeah, sure is. It's great news for that sector. Look, my most remarkable story was the US Supreme Court's draft decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Abortion's been legal in all US states for 50 years now, but with Donald Trump's appointment of Amy Barrett Cohen to the Supreme Court in the final days of his presidency, the bias is towards conservative judges. In this latest case, the draft majority report written by Justice Samuel Alito says the Wade decision was egregiously wrong from the start and must be overruled. President Joe Biden jumped in. He warned that the decision would decimate privacy principles and put in question same-sex marriage, among other things. It is truly remarkable that in 2022, by the end of 2022, abortion could well be illegal in some states in the US.
Yeah, that is just extraordinary, isn't it? All right, moving on to the sleeper story. So this is one that might not be getting the attention that it deserves. The sleeper story for me this week was all about China, and it's really just because interest rates dominated everything else this week. So we may not have paid attention to some of the figures that came out this week about the Chinese economy. So we know that the manufacturing and services sectors there have fallen to the lowest activity levels in more than 2 years, like right back from the beginning of the pandemic. It's a sleeper because if we think supply chain issues have been bad up to now, they could be about to get much, much worse. Major delays of manufactured goods now expected right around the globe. There's at least 27 Chinese cities either in full or partial lockdown. The government's trying to maintain a COVID zero policy. The Chinese economy is going to be hit hard, and so will the rest of the world, anyone relying on the output of Chinese factories.
My sleeper story, Michael, is international as well. Brussels, the European Union, is concerned about Apple preventing competitors from accessing tap-and-go chips or near-field communication. Now, EU regulators say Apple is inhibiting access to benefit its own Apple Pay system. This is a very familiar complaint in Australia, with the major banks making similar claims. The concern is that Apple is restricting third-party access to key technology. Without that, you can't develop rival mobile wallet solutions on Apple devices. If the EU regulators are successful, Apple will be pressured to open the technology globally, and that will open up the payment system globally. A real sleeper story.
Yeah, certainly is. Favourite story, Sean, our last one. Very quick one for me. I love all stories about Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett because what's not to love about the world's greatest investor? Berkshire Hathaway held its annual meeting in Omaha, Nebraska a week ago. It's their first since 2019 because of COVID. What a meeting. Warren Buffett, age 91, Charlie Munger, age 98. They got stuck into the excesses of Wall Street. They attacked crypto. It's really been a big quarter for the company. They spent more than $50 billion buying stocks. It's just such a fascinating company and a couple of fascinating investors leading it. I love the story.
It's a great story. Look, mine is the inquiry in New South Wales into whether the Star Group is fit to hold a gaming licence. It's a journalist friend, this one. It just keeps giving. This week, former CEO Matt Becky was in the stand. He talked about the good culture across the board at the group, but the VIP business was a dark art with a dated subculture. He talked about disguising $1 billion in gambling transactions on debit cards, saying it wasn't right. He said he made the wrong decision allowing a high roller to gamble at the Star Casino, even though he was warned the high roller was reportedly under investigation by the federal police for money laundering. And he talked about a senior Star manager who allegedly misappropriated funds from the casino group, including one $13.3 million payment from junket group Sun City. This story just keeps giving. It's my favourite story for the week.
All right, there we go. 5 minutes on pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.